Hi, folks. Welcome back to Sparkle on Substack, the podcast with me, Claire Venus. I'm so excited today to have the guys from London Writers Salon here with me today. So we have met once before on Zoom, I think, and then I've been following along with London Writers Salon on Substack, and I'm quite often checking out what they're up to and hearing from lots of you guys that you are also part of the London Writers Salon write-alongs, which just sounds so beautiful. I would like to make space for those in the future. So we're going to get into all things writing, Substack, London Writers Salon, and how it all came about with Lindsay and Matt today. I'll let them introduce yourself. Matt, if you'd like to go first, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Claire, and hello, everyone. And familiar faces and not. So I'm the co-founder of the London Writers Salon, and we do all sorts of things, including Writers Hour, which is our daily write-ins that we're probably best known for. So every Monday to Friday, 4 times a day, we host these hour-long silent writing sessions. Up to 1,000 writers attend it every day, which is amazing. And in addition to that, we also host interviews, workshops, and a private community space to help writers dedicate themselves to a writing practice. And our Substack, which I know we're going to dive into a lot today, is an extension of that as well, a daily prompt or a weekly prompt rather. But yeah, that's a bit about me. And I've been doing it. Carl and I started it in 2019. And then 2020 is when we kind of shifted into London Writer Salon 2.0, which is pandemic, Writers Hour, and when we shifted from in-person local gatherings around writers and authors to digital, online, global. So yeah,
Amazing.
now running this.
Four
Yeah,
times a day. It blows my mind. I love it. I can't wait to get into all of this stuff with you both. Lindsay?
yeah, I'm Lindsay. So delighted to be here with you, Claire. I'm a writer and editor of creative nonfiction, and I'm also the head of membership at the London Writers Salon. And I'm the co-founder of Writers Hour magazine, along with my pal Matt, over on Substack, where we publish a 500-word creative writing prompt every week. So yeah, I'm really excited to dig into all of this with both of you.
Oh, beautiful. And I love what you said, Matt, about it being a practice for writers, because the more that I write and the more that I allow myself to be called a writer in my own mind, and if other people reference me as a writer, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's me. They're talking to me. I think the practice is the thing that you keep coming back to because we can't really help but have a practice now, but sometimes it's a battle with our own minds to show up to it. So the practice could look consistent or inconsistent. It could be full of joy or full of frustration and angst. And I guess with the writing hours, which it just seems like the real heartbeat of London Writers Salon, like 4 times a day is incredible. I guess what you're seeing is writers committing to a practice. Am I right?
That's exactly it. One of the things that, and probably we all know it, and actually it was from the sense of knowing that Writers Hour came, is one of the biggest struggles that we have as writers is sometimes it's carving out time, especially when no one is demanding that you carve out the time. So this is something that most people rely on willpower to do. Okay, I'm going to write every day. Well, with Writers Hour, we just created a structure in a container that people can rely on, almost like treating it like a yoga class or a workout class that happens at this time every day. You book in, you show up, you get your work done. So that's the insight that we brought to Writers Hour, is really just taking some of the willpower away from the question, when do I write? We write
Mm.
every day at 8 a.m. and we have four
Mm.
options across the day. So yeah, that is really it. It's a space to commit to the practice.
And on a practical level, you guys have a team of people that show up to the 4 different hours, or you guys are there for 4 hours a day? How does that part of it work?
Yeah. So and this is also part of Lindsay's role, is our Writers Hour manager. So I think we have probably 18 hosts now, including all of us.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
17.
18 hosts and 17. And I'll try to host at least one a day if I can, maybe 3, 4 times a week. But we have, hosts from all over the world. And a lot of these have come from within the community. These are writers who showed up and either had some sort of presence or said, hey, I'd love to help support. And they've graduated into a host role. So yeah, we definitely would fall over if it was just us hosting all of those
Yeah.
21 sessions a week. So yeah, we're amazing hosts that help hold that space every day.
Beautiful. And it's such prolific output. And like, I mean that in the best way when I say output, because we are all plugging into the internet, aren't we? To do our jobs, to write, to show up on socials and promote. Like, there are so many roles within what we might be asked to do as a writer these days. And I feel like with that amount of space holding and showing up and also the ripples of all of that. So one person tells 10 people and then they tell 10 people. It must just feel so expansive to be holding that, to be saying, yeah, like there's four opportunities and it's all over the world. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's a great joy. I don't know, Lindsay, how you feel about it, but whenever I host, I always walk away feeling lighter. I feel happier. I feel more
Mm.
joy because you see the gratitude that people have when they finish the session. Everyone's just thanking us, thanking the space, thanking each other for being a witness to the work that they're dedicating themselves to. So it's a great joy to hold that space. I don't
Yeah,
know,
but
Lindsay, if you what your perspective is.
yeah, we talk a lot, Matt and I, and also at the salon more broadly, we talk about Julia Cameron's idea of believing mirrors,
Mhm.
that how important it is as an artist to have people who are witnessing you in the journey. And I think that's really the true magic of Writer's Hour, is that it's a space. It's I think of it as a space for fidelity, like to yourself and to your
Mhm.
work, to the writing. And it's also a space to be witnessed in the process that is usually so solitary. It's usually something that, people are not alongside you. They're there for the publication day and they're there when you hit publish on Substack. But when you're toiling away on a post and you're moving commas here and there and you're struggling with word choice, it's nice to be able to look up and see other people also deep in the work alongside you. I think it's incredibly
Mm.
encouraging and I find it a tremendous honor to hold that space.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I quite often think about that concept of, I think because we've seen so much B-roll in the last few years on socials. You know, if someone had like a B-roll of us all doing our writing, doing our job, showing up, like whether that's from a cafe or sometimes I write on the sofa, sometimes I'm here in the office, and it's just all so diverse and different, but we're plugging in, aren't we? And that's the opportunity that you guys give people. But not just that, there's this real energetic sense of celebration and community, and there's definitely something that goes beyond a Zoom screen with the space that you guys hold. Like, I was so taken aback when I came in to talk about Substack and the Substack book last summer. Like, I'd done quite a few pop-ups and different bits of interviews and teaching, and it was just like my shoulders dropped. I was like, oh, this is just really lovely. Like, this is just a really nice space to be in. I felt so welcome. I felt like everybody, I think you guys was like celebrating a birthday. It was just so gorgeous. It's like, oh, right. The internet isn't just about come in, learn a thing, leave again. This is about ripples that go far further than that. And actually, for some people, like you say, it is quite solitary. It might be the only thing that they plug into that day, especially if they live remotely.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this was very. I mean, maybe some of it was accidental, but a lot of it was really deliberate. How do we
Mm,
create a space like a true community is a
mm,
space where people see and are seen,
yes.
and to not shy away from the internet can feel like a big message board in a way. It's like a bunch of text flying by with little icons of people's picture. We do not shy away from people being on camera, face to face, hearing them, speaking to them by name. Hey, Claire, where are you struggling? How can we help? You share, we offer support. So we try to infuse it with this ethos of encouragement, uh, camaraderie. Like these
Mhm.
are almost like we're giving people colleagues in a way. Like these
Mhm.
are like we're not working in the same business or whatever, but we're like working in the same direction on something on these various projects. So yeah, a lot of it's been deliberate. So like, how do we see and be seen? And how do we infuse this spirit of encouragement and joy and excitement and celebration for just showing up and normalizing good days, normalizing bad days, normalizing neutral days.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of little things that we do in Writer's Hour that hopefully add to this beautiful experience that you described. So it's really nice to hear that, Claire. That's
Mm,
exactly what we're trying to create.
yeah.
And you
So
read, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's so beautiful. And I know that when we talk about writing, we could be talking about publishing a blog post, a Substack post. We could be talking about doing a piece of press. We could be talking about writing a novel. Like there's so much within the writing hour that is invited, isn't it? It's just show up and write whatever you want to write.
That's it. I don't know, Lindsay, if you wanted to add to that.
Well, you were reading my mind when you were speaking about giving people colleagues, and I just wanted to share that how I came to the salon was through Writer's Hour. I think it was January 2021. I was working as a freelance copywriter. I had no interaction with my colleagues. We communicated via email. There were no phone calls. There were no Zoom calls. It was just endless emails. And I started coming to Writer's Hour. I came for a couple of weeks with my camera off because I was so deeply shy. But it was really important to me, I think, to suddenly be in the room with people. And I was doing my own creative work, not sort of the copywriting. And the first day that I turned my camera on, Matt called on me at the end of the session and said, "Hey, how was your session? What were you working on?" And I shared a little bit about my book. And I'll never forget the way Matt was just like, "Oh, that sounds so interesting. We're so glad to have you with us." And just the sense of that it was like that was my shoulder drop moment
Mm.
of I was like, "Oh, I belong somewhere. I belong with these people." And it was such a gift that I've sort of just stuck myself onto the salon ever since.
Oh,
And now you practice that too. I mean, I've seen Lindsay. I mean, Lindsay's really blossomed into this big role with us here, and you provide that for so many people too. So it's like this, that's part of the ripple effect, is
Yeah.
like we treat people in the space how we, you know, how maybe how they might not know how they want to be treated, but we feel like we'll create a really nice space. And then the ripple effects of the hosts practicing it, the ethos, the vibe, so all of it is, yeah, contributes to hopefully creating this really welcoming space.
yeah, it's so beautiful and it's definitely got its own identity in that. Like when I was, like I said, making my little list of people that I would love to reach out to for the podcast, like I remember just like as I wrote London Writer Salon, I was like, oh yeah, like that was such a beautiful connect. It's such a crazy busy time for me. And then, you end up circling back around. And I know I've told lots of people about it as a format and kind of said to people like, check out what they're doing and get in touch and all of that sort of stuff. So it definitely works. And this is what I say within Sparkle and Substack as well, because sometimes the internet and the vanity metrics of the internet and accolades and all those sorts of things can have us feel like we're not enough. So there is that feeling in a lot of the members, they're just sort of going, well, but I'm just here, I've just got this many people, and that number is arbitrary, really. Like it could be 10 people, it could be 10,000 people, like people just feel their feelings, right? And then I'm
Mm.
like, I know, but the work that you are here to do is to reach your perfect people that are going to be ready to turn around as soon as they realize what you're doing. And then from there, once they have connected with what it is that you're here to do and what that community is, when the two of you meet, that's when they'll tell other people and your work will get shared further. So that sort of connection, I think, really helps people and just really helps people to hold on to the kind of heart-centered work in a world that feels like they're in the wrong place sometimes. And
Mm.
I feel like when you guys will have arrived to Substack, it was definitely quieter than it is right now here today. I'd love to talk about your strategy for arriving to Substack and what you wanted to do with the platform, the elements of social media that you might have wanted to test out, or the elements of community, like the whole thing really at that point when you decided, okay, now it's time to start a Substack. And then we can circle it to, and where are we now as we close out the year, right?
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, this was, I think, one of the projects that I'm most proud of. I think maybe Lindsay too. At the salon, we're always trying to create new things um, that help serve our people. And so we were kind of sitting on the sidelines of Substack. We were watching as people were diving in and feeling a little FOMO, I'll be honest. And also a little embarrassment. I'm like, we're running a writing community and we have no presence on Substack. Like
Mm.
is that it's a little silly. So kind of that coupled with actually something, one of Lindsay's initial projects at the salon was, this was probably within your first year, I'm guessing, of kind of stepping into it, you suggested, hey, what if we had a weekly prompt? You called it the prompt playground. And so every week you would post a writing prompt to our community. And so really what our Substack is it's an extension of that weekly prompt that Lindsay was sharing. The other part is coming onto Substack, we knew if we wanted to have a chance at making a splash, we might need to be a little countercultural.
Mhm.
Meaning, what if instead of our Substack, it didn't look like content, but instead we were inspiring other people to create content, and instead of asking for donation or membership and donations and pledges, what if we were giving money away? So we were kind of took like a zig to the zag approach with Substack. And so how it looks right now is it's a weekly creative writing prompt, maximum 500 words, free to enter. And we award the top three, first, second, and third place, various things. All of them are published on our Substack. And then the first prize gets a cash prize and free membership for 3 months and a bunch of other stuff. We started stacking on more prizes to that bundle. So that's how it exists. And we started it in September 2024. And we've been going every week except for scheduled breaks. And we're in the middle of a scheduled holiday break right now.
Nice. Oh, yeah. You've got to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. What did I miss, Lindsay? I kind of did hopefully a whistle stop tour of what it is, but
I think we didn't say the name of the publication, which
yeah.
is Writer's Hour Magazine. And yeah, I think, like Matt said, we like to think of it as a part of the wider ecosystem of the salon. You know, Writer's Hour, that's the heartbeat of the membership experience at the salon. And so Writer's Hour Magazine felt like a natural extension of that. I think of it as the magazine on Substack as our playful, generative branch of what we do, a place to offer people. You know, that's the other thing that Matt and I talked about is how can we show up and be of service to our community?
Mhm.
So it's a place where people have permission and encouragement to show up and make something new and joyfully and quickly every week without thinking too hard about it. So the contest opens Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that contest closes on Fridays at noon Eastern Standard Time. And we usually have guest judges attached, people whose work we really admire. Sometimes we attach even more cool prizes to the contest. So it's been really beautiful and fun. And like I said, it has felt like such an obvious way for us to be present on Substack and to serve the writers in our community.
Yeah, beautiful. I love the gamification of it as well. Like, I feel like that's what's kept quite a lot of elements of what I've been doing really fun because every now and again I'll just throw in a competition or I'll like throw in a like, what happens if, So I did a birthday treasure hunt in, I think it was like June this year, and I just hid buttons, like little emojis, all over my Substack publication and just said, okay, like I've hidden loads of prizes. All you've got to do is find the buttons. I didn't really give them too many clues, but I just felt it was so fun. And I just was like hiding them all, thinking, this is so fun. Like I've given somebody this really great course over here, or I've given somebody a full year's membership. I gave away a lifetime membership. Like there was so much stuff going on. And I think that as a curator, sometimes especially because I want to talk about joyful growth, and I do, but it's not all I do. Like, I want to talk about the creativity as well, probably more actually. I think sometimes just that space of this is going to be a bit different. I call it a pattern interrupt. I don't know where I've got that from, whether that's a real phrase, but it's a pattern interrupt of a person on the internet, is how I see it. So it's like, oh, I was expecting it to be this thing, so article or podcast or two-part article or whatever, and actually it's an invite to do this thing. And I feel like that's what you guys do as well. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. The emoji
Yeah,
Easter eggs. That's a really
yeah,
fun
so
idea.
fun.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like there's this, I don't know if it's a paradox, but it's how can you be um reliable and set expectations accurately with your readers. So that's like one side of the brain is like when people sign up for something, we want to make sure that they really understand what they're signing up for and they can rely on it. And that's one of the bedrocks of Writer's Hour. You know, you can rely on it. We've done it every Monday to Friday since March 2020 without
Wow.
fail,
Mhm.
unless we've said we're not doing it. So it hasn't happened because we forgot. It hasn't not happened because we forgot. It hasn't not happened because something fell down. It happens because we said it will happen. And that's how we wanted to treat our Substack. Just, everything we know about growth, you're more likely to grow when you are consistent.
Mhm.
So we decided to do this contest only if we knew we would be consistent with the promise every week until we decided to say, hey, we're having a scheduled break.
Mhm.
So that's like the one side of the brain is creating some sort of consistent drumbeat that people can rely on. And then I love the idea of like making sure the other side is there, which is the joy. And I hope that's what we're doing inside the post itself, inside the prompts. We're giving them a structure so then they can be wild and joyful with the work, bringing in guest judges, guest prizes. Like that's, I think, our surprise every week. You don't know what the prompt's going to be. You don't know who the judge is going to be. And you don't know what there might be new prizes there. So that's kind of where we create the novelty, the spark, the joy.
Mm.
And it also gives us joy, I think. Like we love it's so fun to say, hey, this week it's, this Oliver Berkman's the guest judge. How fun. Or Amy McNee. It's really been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And do you get a lot of entries? Does it depend week on week? Does it depend on the prompt? Is it pretty consistent?
Lindsay.
It definitely depends on the prompt, but we average about between 300 and 500 submissions a week.
Wow.
So we do get quite a few. Sometimes, sometimes we learn as we go which prompts really resonate with folks and which
Mhm.
ones don't quite land. Or sometimes I've been a little bit too heady or esoteric in my explanation of the prompt, and people are like, "What is this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we've had a couple that have had under 100 submissions, but usually between 300 and 500 a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and like Matt said, I think the joy really comes from, for me, it's like I'm obsessed with the moment when a writer surprises themselves on the page. And I think when you don't know what prompt you're going to be working with week by week, you can't help but surprise yourself. And that prompt becomes a doorway, and the constraint of 500 words becomes this great permission slip to take risk without overthinking it. You've got 1 week, you've got a limited amount of words. And I think, and I think, as Matt said, I think these great guest judges we've gotten to bring on as well have been, and also a fun part of the surprise.
I just love that kind of parameter around our creativity sometimes as well. And I can imagine that it's quite a nice flex for writers who just go, you know what, like the novel is big and heavy and I'm in the middle of edits, like let's do something else. So like that refreshing, like let's come to the page and do something else. And then also doing it in community as well, because they know that there's so many people gathering to write on the same prompt. That must be a really nice feeling week to week. And then you guys said that obviously you publish the winners on your Substack, so they'll get a little bit of exposure and some visibility there as well, which is great.
And it's one of my favorite things about the publication is that we publish 3 pieces every week, and the writers that we are publishing are such a wide mix of for some of them, it's their first publication, their first byline ever. They've never published
Oh.
anything.
Hmm.
Then we've had Emmy winners and, screenwriters and people who have published their third and fourth book. And it's really amazing to see it's just a great way to celebrate the community that we have. And I especially love the emails we get of people saying, I'm brand new to writing. I've never published anything before. This has given me such a boost of confidence. It's really special.
Yeah, that is really, really lovely. I love that. And so if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, maybe I'll have a little go, then just head on over and see. Obviously, you've got a new chance every week, unless the guys are having a break, and you can just read into something and see where it takes you. I love that in my own writing practice. I've got two Substacks, and one of them is very much wholehearted living, like behind the scenes of my business. And I never know where that's going to take me week on week. So I've shown up to a weekly publishing cadence this year. I won't be doing it next next year, but it was a real test of stability in me to go, if I give myself a week in between posts, what happens to me and my practice as a writer? Like, when do I write? When does the inspiration strike? When do I write something early in the week and then hate it by the time it's Sunday and it's time for it to go out? Like I just wanted to do that for a whole year. So it's been cool to do. I also did it as a growth experiment and it didn't work as a growth experiment, but the whole point of growth experiments and doing this stuff and putting myself in that position is so that I can share with the members, okay, like people might say to you, oh, well, what if you published weekly? Like you would see such monstrous growth or whatever. And like it hasn't been the case for me. And I'm in the position now where I don't think it's because my writing's rubbish, but I could have told myself that 6 years ago. I could have been like, oh, my writing's just not good enough. But I think some of my writing is good enough for it to go viral or for it to be shared more. But part of showing up weekly is people go, oh, that's nice. I'll see you again next week. Or they go, I've heard from Claire quite a lot now, actually, and that's probably enough for now. And then they'll move on. So it's been really, really interesting. I think creative practice is interesting and we can lean into what feels good to us in a season. I think if I'm honest with myself, I probably should have just done 3 or 6 months of that. But because I'd committed to the year, I was like, okay, so we're doing this for a year. And then I don't have to think about it. I just have to show up. I don't have to think about it. I just show up, rinse and repeat. So now that we are closing out the year, so we're in December now, and you guys might be listening a little bit in the future, I'm super curious with you guys around how you align ambition with joyful growth, with monetization, with the model, and feeling like you can still hold the model without it feeling like huge and this huge monster that's got too many moving parts that you can't hold anymore. I just love your take on all of that and how that all feels.
Yeah, well, we're in that moment right now, to be honest. I think so we are a year and a half into our Substack.
Mhm.
We've I don't how many prompts have we shared? Because I know we took probably a collective 2 months off at least between that year and a half. So lots of prompts.
Yeah.
Um, we are at a point of figuring out how to make this sustainable
Mhm.
because you heard from Lindsay, 300 to 500 entries of
So
500
many,
words.
so many
A lot of
words.
that's
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of that's falling on Lindsay.
Mhm.
One of our experiments operationally was to bring more first readers in. So we have 5 first readers who do the reading now, or a lot of the reading. So that's been a test. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of work because of what we've decided to do. Shipping weekly, all the review of all the pieces, publishing, all that stuff. There's a lot of moving parts. Plus, it's not without financial costs. We have a bespoke illustration every week. Emma
Nice.
Winterschladen, our amazing illustrator, every week she uses the prompt as a creative prompt for the illustration. So we kind of give like, hey, do what you want with this prompt visually, and she's doing that. Also, the prize money, all that stuff. So yeah, we're at a point of trying to figure out what does this look like? Now we did turn on paid subscriptions. I guess when was that? Was that at the end of that was almost a year ago. That was
Yeah.
at the beginning of this year. We still want to keep the entries free because that feels important to us because many writing contests, there is an entry fee. We want ours to feel as accessible as possible. So we want there to be no fee. But we did turn on paid subscriptions. Not You don't have to be paid to receive the prompt or even to submit your piece for reading. We have introduced a feedback lottery, so 3 paid subscribers will receive editorial feedback from Lindsay on their
Nice.
piece every week. But honestly, this is something we're figuring out. How we have, I don't know how many true paying subscribers we have because our paying members also get complimentary access to our subscription, our
Mhm.
Substack. But we're kind of breaking even. Let's
Mhm.
say it. The only reason we can do it in this way is that we at the Salon is viewing Substack, for lack of a better way to put it, it's kind of like marketing spend. Like we're
Yeah.
putting in that bucket, which has enabled us to invest in that. But ideally, this would be a growth area for us, both revenue and I know it has been for membership. Just I would say half the people who've come to us have probably heard about it from Substack. So it's been a win in that sense. But we're at this point of like, how do we keep this sustainable for us? operationally and also financially. So yeah, I wish I wish I had the answer right now, but it's really just questions. And I think Lindsay and I and our little team are going to do some soul searching in the next few weeks of what does our Substack in 2026 look like. So
Yeah.
it might change. I don't know.
Yeah, and I really deeply appreciate that honesty, Matt, because everybody's feeling into that. Everybody's feeling into that for all sorts of reasons, whether they've been on the platform for a little while, or whether they just feel it's more crowded, or whether they feel it's harder to grow. You know, we've all got some feelings. We've all got some feelings in response to our Substack publication. We can't help it. It's just, it's funny because I guess I came to the online space later than some of my colleagues, and when people would talk about this deeply emotional connection with Instagram, I just would be a bit perplexed. I'd be like, well,
Mm.
wait, what happened? Like, what happened? Because isn't it your account and then the people that follow it and the relationships? But no, it is the platform. Like, we develop a relationship with the platform because the platform gives us so many options. And then we see all of the other options that everybody can do. And it somehow becomes a bit like, okay, but we've done this for a while and it's working, but it's become something that maybe we were leaning into change, or maybe it's just got an expiration date, or maybe we're burning out. Like, I can be honest about that because I support so many people in burnout, and it's because they didn't realize, they didn't realize it was going to get as big as it got. And now they're like, what do I do with this now? There's so much work involved. So, yeah, I think there are some real questions, but there's also time. Like, there's never a rush. And this is what I always feed back to folks. Like, we have time to figure this stuff out because subscriptions and memberships are forever. And obviously, that's a strange phrase. It's a strange concept. We can't really embody what that means because, like, we're in a human vessel and we're not forever. But we are saying, like, this is perpetual, it's forever. Like, keep joining us year on year. And we don't really know what that means. So I guess that's the bigger question that I've been sitting with, having been doing online stuff in business for 5 years now, starting really small and then blowing up just last year, really. Um, and I think that we can, I think that we can pause, like you guys have the beautiful pause weeks, and we can be more honest about that. We had some lovely conversations at the Substack party in the summer, actually, about the August pause, like who's stopping for August and what does that look like? And it's almost like we're still culturally asking for permission to stop. It's like, but if subscriptions are forever, then surely as humans, we get to stop multiple times in a year, multiple times in a week, have full weekends, long weekends. Like, we need to be modeling that, right? Like, yeah, and it's like I'm speaking this out, but I am just in this realization myself this year of what the embodied pause looks like.
As you're saying that, Claire, I'm thinking about we had this strange experience over the summer. Our Substack had a sort of wild viral moment
Yeah.
that it was wild, but it was also strangely grounding.
Mm,
Matt wrote a note. I can't even remember what the language was, but within about 2 weeks, I think our subscriber count doubled.
mhm,
I think we had, I mean, just thousands and thousands and thousands of new subscribers directly from a single note.
mhm.
And I think the energy was really intense around that and really wild and something I had never experienced before. But I think something that I took away from that was that, and Matt has reflected on this as well, that virality only mattered because we had something really steady and substantial. And I think that it was helpful for me to remember, especially when we're in a moment like this, where we're like, how do we move forward sustainably? That I think back to that when that sudden wave of attention arrived, the whole structure held. It felt solid, it felt good. And so it helps me to, that's what has allowed me to feel like, okay, we can rest, we can take a pause. This thing held with this wave of attention. And inversely, I think it holds with our ability to say, hey, we're a tiny team and we also need to rest.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's beautiful. And what a story as well, because you don't know until it's happened what the impact of something going viral is going to be, do you? So it's happened now, and you're like, okay, that's what happened, and everything held, and it worked beautifully. I mean, the beauty of Substack Notes as well, it's not just viral for 24 hours, is it? It's viral for like days, sometimes even weeks, and people are like, how do I turn this off? Like, it's really cool.
Yeah, I think for us it was a solid month.
A
And
month, yeah.
I realized something about the algorithm because it was almost like 1 month from that note, all of a
Hmm.
sudden the drop off, not
Yeah.
drop off, but like the slope, it started to round. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, it has like a 1 month duration and then it like
Mhm.
expires a note if it really goes viral. That's I don't they may have changed it. Um, I do just want to touch on the thing that at least I find mentally helpful in decisions like this.
Mhm.
So one, it's, when we think about doing bold things like pausing for a month or 6 weeks or 8 weeks or stopping the publication or changing something, it can feel really daunting
Mhm.
for all the reasons you mentioned, Claire. And one of the things that I think I ask myself and I encourage us to ask ourselves and each other is like, what's the worst case scenario? Like,
Mhm.
let's like just play it out. Okay, worst case scenario, everyone emails asking for refunds, everyone cancels. Okay, cool. Like, we can play that in our mind. The chance of it happening is probably zero, but there might be a fraction of that. So at least just like planning that scenario, what that worst case is, and then what's more likely to happen.
Mhm.
It just mentally makes it easier to make big moves. The other thing I find it helpful when making big decisions is to separate myself and my identity from this thing as much as
Yeah.
possible. Like, I I want the best for it, but I don't need it.
Mhm.
And if we can, I think that's a healthy way to approach anything in our lives. Like, I really want this thing. I care about it. I love it. I don't need it. Like it can disappear and I'll be okay.
Mhm.
And obviously that's difficult, but I do find when we separate our identity and um our worth, I guess, from this thing and know that we'll be okay, it's like it's a release of like, okay, now we can make inspired action
Mhm.
based on intuition and positivity instead of out of fear and lack and fear of loss. So that's I mean, I'm not perfect in it, but in my best self, I manage to ask those questions and to approach everything in that way.
That is so insightful, Matt, and so helpful. I feel like the line about showing up as our best selves has been something that has really helped me. So when I'm processing the bigger emotions around having an online presence or being spoken to in a certain way or whatever's gone on, it's like, okay, but giving this limited energy and then showing up to the people that are here as my best self is all I can really do. And if I don't feel my best self in that moment, like I'll take our puppy for a walk or I'll go for a sauna or, I'll do something else because all of that energy it can wait, we can wait and we can wait to do that. There was something that I did in the summer in a mastermind group, which was around visualization of how we plug into our business. And it was really interesting inside of the visualization. I don't know whether you guys meditate or you're into any of that stuff, but for me, like I can go on full journeys and see like the full vision of how things are, like physically are here and now and how things can
Mm.
be. So the business, the way that I built it was absolutely huge. And it was like a castle made of ice, like Elsa's ice castle, probably because I watch Frozen a lot with my daughter. And then I was outside of the castle, and then it was like this cold place to go. And I was like, that's so interesting. I don't feel cold about my work at all. I feel really warm about my work. And then this peacock appeared, and the peacock sat outside the giant ice castle, and the peacock was like, I've got this. You just go off and do what you need to do separate to this. And then in that moment, the peacock was in one hand and the ice castle was in the other. And I was looking at them both going, oh, I had this all wrong. Like it wasn't this big thing that was behind me that I couldn't see, that I couldn't go into, that was cold. It was actually just something I could hold in my hand. And then I've got this like lovely little peacock totem that can do all sorts of things, just be like, nothing to see here. I've got the peacock feathers or whatever it was. I don't know. I mean, I'm still going deep into that vision. It was so powerful. But I had no idea that I felt this embodied sense of like this business is so huge, like it's infinitely scalable, and I'm so small. It was like no, like I'm the one that gets to decide, right? So I don't know whether that'll resonate with anybody at all. It's still obviously quite fresh in the way that I'm working it through my system. But I know it's been a massive shift for my nervous system when it's come to understanding who I am in separation from my business and all of the things that it enables.
I love that. I
I think Matt's gonna
just what
drop
it,
his mic. He's
what,
just gonna pick the mic up and
no,
drop it. Lindsay as well. They're like, what is she? What is going on here?
no,
No, I
it's
love
really
this.
great. Yeah, those images are really, I think we've
Hmm.
all had experiences of something like that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's really powerful. And yeah, I think, well, thanks for sharing that because I
You're
know these things
welcome.
can be, personal too, and they're
Mm.
still doing their work on you. It sounds like
Yeah.
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
understanding of it. But I think what you said reminded me of something I think we try to encourage writers and we try to encourage ourselves, especially if someone has like, let's say it's their first publication, their first book, it can feel like the biggest thing in the world because it's the
Yeah.
first, it's the only. But when we encourage people to zoom out and say, okay, well, this is just one book on a shelf of books. This is just one project, one publication in a whole suite of projects and publications that you're going to have in your life. It just like, and that's when you talked about the castle being this big thing versus the thing in your hand. That's kind of what it reminded me of is like in the
Mm.
wider perspective of your life and your career, treat this as just one great thing among a bunch of great things you're going to do. And this might be a stepping stone into the thing that's even bigger or better or fits you even more. So I think, especially people on their first publication, their first project, it can feel really big. But to zoom out and just like, this is part of the journey, just one part of the journey.
Yeah, part of being inside of the vision, I think, isn't it?
Mm.
What about you, Lindsay, in terms of like the work that you have been plugged into since you met and connected with London Writers Salon and the work that you want to do on your own or separate to that? Like, is that all feeling like balanced, or do you feel like you've got ambition outside of this and you want to write more books or do more speaking? I don't know.
I love this question, and I think it's something Matt and I think about a lot. I was going to say, just listening to you talk about this vision, the first thing I was going to say is that I think something that comes up often when I coach writers in our community is I ask them to think about where their excitement is.
Mm,
I'm always using the phrases, where's the heat for you? Where's the heat? And what are you afraid of? And how do you want to grow next? And I suddenly was like, oh, I should be asking these questions to myself. And I think actually what the thing I love about working with Matt is that I know that this conversation we're going to have about the Substack, the publication, it's going to include those questions. Is where is the excitement for us?
yeah.
Where is the heat? How do we want to grow next? What are we afraid of? And I think, I have my own artistic ambitions. I've written a book. I'm working on a proposal for a second. Um, and, Matt and I are playing with ways that we can. So I'll share that Matt encouraged me to start my personal Substack in 2023.
Mhm.
And it was kind of transformative for me. I suddenly was connected with people I wouldn't have been connected with before. I suddenly was getting to have conversations I didn't know I wanted to have. It felt really fruitful and really connective. We launched Writers Hour magazine in September 2024. My last publication on my personal Substack was August 2024.
Mm,
And I think we are both at a specific moment creatively where we're like, okay, how do we keep giving to this community? How do we keep serving this community? And how do we not lose ourselves along the way? How do we make sure we are really also tending to the individual work we are here to do? Because I feel it. I feel very urgently that I have things to say and to share. I know that's true for Matt as well. And so we're trying to support each other in that. And I feel really, really hopeful about how that's going to look in 2026. It might even include a bonus Substack publication.
Yeah, and taking us behind the scenes of what that looks and feels like is as fascinating as reading the finished thing. So I do think those kind of process-based articles or shares or, I'll do it on the podcast or whatever, I do think people resonate really strongly with that because we're all very unique, like I said, when it comes to our creative practice, but sometimes just being able to create the space around how do I ask what I want if I'm telling myself that I've got to show up all the time. It's like if you're telling yourself you've got to show up, like you miss the question of what do you want. And I find that a lot. Like people have told themselves, okay, I'm going to publish weekly or I'm going to publish monthly. And then and then once a month for paid as well, and then oh no, my paid are dropping. What do I do? And it's like this constant scramble. Um, and that's the longevity piece because of my backgrounds in project work, I only ever saw anything that I did as a time limited project, like not a forever thing. And
Mhm.
the time limited projects exist within an overarching structure and brand now because I have that sophistication of knowledge. But in my mind, I'm still in, okay, like let's play a project. Like let's play a project out and see where the energy dips. And then we go, okay, that one's pausing now and something else is coming back. So the irony of mine this year was that I did 2025 growth experiments. As part of Sparkle on Substack, and then everything stopped growing. I was
Mhm.
like, wait a minute, no, like I was gonna just do the growth experiments and the growth was gonna come and then I was gonna talk about that. And it's been the most humbling experience. I've brought some guests in, like we've definitely like gone off piste and explored it in other ways, but in my mind, I just felt I knew what it was going to be. Like I had that sort of insight of like, this is what it's going to look like. I'll just talk about like doing fun experiments and then I'll show them the growth. And I was like, wait, this isn't working.
Mm.
So it's just been so funny because for me, it's like, okay, but this is what I was guided to do, but the experience that I was guided to have at the same time wasn't aligned. And I've never really had that, to be honest. I've always
Mm.
just been living in the vision board, doing the things, everything's been working. So this year has been like a hard year to kind of
Mm.
go, "Oh, like, how do I consistently show up to this topic? Because I
Mm.
want to, I said I'm going to, and I will but I haven't got that same like exuberance around joyful growth because the experiments that I was doing weren't working. So, yeah, there's so
Mm.
much in it all, isn't there?
Mm. I'll tell you, sorry, Matt, do you have something you want to?
No, go for it.
I'll tell you something I think about all the time, Claire, in terms of Substack, primarily for my own personal Substack. Just a very quick story is that when I was 16 years old, I was invited to interview the playwright Margaret Edson.
Mm.
She wrote a play called Wit. It won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama. It won the Tony Award for Best Play. And she was a school teacher in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I went to her classroom to interview her about this play. And we had this beautiful conversation. And I asked her what her next play was about. And she looked at me like she was like, I don't have another play. And I was like, well, what do you mean? You just won the Pulitzer Prize. Like, what are you working on next? What are you writing next? And she said, I said the thing I came to say. If I feel like I have to say something in the future, maybe I'll write, maybe I'll write again. And the, my personal Substack, I write personal essays and I could never commit to a weekly or monthly cadence because I'm always like, am I going to have something that feels really urgent for me to say? And
Mhm.
so a lot of the lessons I've learned from Writer's Hour magazine is that there are ways for me to show up for people and create containers and invitations and spaces for others that don't always rely on me having to um, share something urgently, sort of. And I think that's been a real aha moment for me in terms of how I want to show up on Substack. And I think, especially after the sort of viral moment of the summer,
Mm.
where it did get kind of addictive watching the numbers of subscribers going up and the numbers of likes and this and that. And I have to like constantly remind myself that the work is the reward, that the writing itself is the reward. I have something tacked up on my corkboard by my desk, which is about the measure of success for a piece of writing for me. On Substack, on my book, anywhere else, and that measure of success is, did this grow me as a writer or did this grow me as a person? If the answer is yes to either of those questions, I succeeded. And everything else is a cherry on top. So that's been really helpful because Matt, like you, I think, operates in I've learned a lot from Matt about treating things like an experiment. Let's just try something. Let's see how it goes. And I think that framework for success helps me feel less attached to the outcome of the experiment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. What a beautiful story. That was so nice to hear. And it's always fascinating, isn't it, to hear and lean into what writers are actually feeling, especially writers that have been doing it for longer. So recently interviewed Sharon Blackie, and
Mhm.
I just felt so healed after that conversation. Like, she's been writing for a long time, but she also came to writing later, so it wasn't everything from the beginning. But also she's got incredible boundaries around how she sees the internet and how she sees her interaction with the internet as well. So that felt like a huge permission slip for me because I think with the internet, because it is infinite and because there are so many opportunities, and because last year I was riding a wave of nothing I'd ever felt before. So similar to the viral note, I think, like my nervous system had not had that many notifications in life. Like I'd never received that many notifications. It was constant every day, the UK wave, and then it would be like the USA wave would come and it would just be insane. And so then when things started to calm down, there was definitely this piece of like, what happens when I'm not being responsive because I actually get my brain back and my sense of who I am back. And I don't need as many assistants, and that all feels really calm now. I don't have those people to manage and they aren't asking me for tasks. And oh, like this is really different and serene. So, yeah, it's a beautiful gift to write online, but writing online isn't being a writer, I don't think. I think being a writer is just being a writer, and then writing online is like the fun experimental bit.
Mm. That's really lovely. Yeah, I think all of these things are like a question of how do you have ambition, if that's something you want,
Yeah.
while also kind of holding on to the stuff that doesn't care if you have ambition.
Hmm.
It's like me personally, I get one of the things that gives me joy is to have a horizon to move toward. So
Hmm.
that's like, and that's what ambition is for me. It's not like the destination, it's more about what a fun journey to try to go on. Like, I wonder if I can do this. That's the joy for me is like, I wonder if I can pull this off. Um, but yeah, just hearing you both talk, it really is a question of, I think, ambition versus like the stuff, yeah, that just doesn't care how many people read it. It doesn't care if anyone reads it. It just cares about Lindsay, your question. Did I grow? Did I
Mm.
change?
Mm.
So I think this is something I'm landing on. I feel like for all areas of life, it's like the truth exists in the paradox. It's
Yeah.
like, how do you have all the ambition in the world, but no ambition? It's like at the same time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot in trust. My book this year is called Invisible Trust. So it's called The Hidden Rules of Influence and Reciprocity Online, because reciprocity has been like the pivotal feels in everything. Like that has just been bringing everything back to reciprocity last year just kept me stable, I
Mhm.
think, in what was a monster year in so many ways, good and bad. And then this year, writing into the theme of invisible trust and questioning where the trust came from, in earlier life, but also growing up with the internet and then deciding to curate bits of what we all do on the internet. So it's been a really interesting topic to write under, but trust is a really interesting one because I think we're leaning into trusting ourselves, trusting platforms, trusting that things work, trusting that communities will show up. Like there's so much invisible trust, there's so much of that thread that we've learned just to kind of accept as our new normal. And I guess we've just not had that much time to process any of that stuff. So yeah, it's been really interesting to write under that and to just have a writing project as part of 12 Chapters Club. So the idea was people could get a monthly reminder to write a chapter of the book for a full year. And now we're now 12 chapters into the year. Some people have used it to work on book proposals, other people have written chapters, other people have got, manuscripts out of drawers and things like that. And it's been pretty quiet, but I needed it to be. But for me, it's been that space of like, okay, like I get to work on the book. Like that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing outside of everything else. And there was never any promise of what the book would be delivered as. Like I just was very clear. Like I think the book will be available in December. I think that it'll be available to buy. I really don't know the answer to that yet. We'll just see. So that's been a really fun thing through this year. But yeah, the theme of trust. I feel like we three could do like a beautiful retreat on all of this stuff, like ambition, trust, monetization, balance, community. Like there's so much in all of that. But I really hope it inspires listeners just to see a Substack publication in a different way. Like ask some questions of it, ask some questions of yourself, ask some questions of the longevity. And going back to Matt's point about the zig and zag, which I loved, it's like, how do we turn it on its head? How do we do something different? How do we stand out from the crowd? Which I think is the biggest question on most people's lips as we head into 2026, if they started on Substack before now. I think, that's what I'm feeling a lot of. Like, I just feel like I'm writing into the void now. And it's not true. Of course, it's not true, but there is a collective feeling of that at times. So, yeah, we can all lift each other up and support each other and come together in containers to help with that stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think also just if people are really clear about what the thing is they're creating and what its intention is, because
Yeah.
when we look at our Substack, it was a very clear intention. It wasn't a it wasn't a true creative expression for Lindsay and I. Let's be honest. It was, let's serve a group of people in the best way we know how. The creativity is how we do that with the prompts, but like it wasn't, I have something I need to express.
Mhm.
Now, that's a great intention for a publication, but just know that that doesn't mean there's an audience for it. So you're just more likely, I think a lot of the confusion happens is when people do one thing but expect the thing automatically that doesn't necessarily marry
Yeah.
those two. You might have a great audience if you write from a place of expression and whatever you need to write. You might not. Whereas if you position it as, I'm going to be tremendously helpful for this community of people, you're just more likely by the nature of it going to have an audience that potentially can grow.
Mm.
But something might be missing for you creatively. So it's really just to get, I think a lot of confusion and pain can be avoided if you're just really clear on like, what is this thing? And not to try to make it the other thing or expect it to be the other thing when it's primarily the one thing, if that makes sense.
Super, yeah, super clear. And I think it is that thing, isn't it? Of you can hold it in your hand, but you can also put it on a shelf. Like it is not bigger
Yeah.
than you. It is a small thing that we can hold and put on a shelf when we're ready to. Yeah, gorgeous. So to wrap up, guys, where can people connect to your work online? Should they go to the website to join the membership if they want to join in with the writing hours? Is that the best place to kind of start with your website?
Yeah, I would say if you're looking for creative writing prompts, go to Writer's Hour Magazine on Substack. If you're looking for a community of people and focused writing time, go to writershour.com. And if you're looking for more community and more craft insights, London Writer Salon membership, which is where you get access to all of our events, recordings, meetups, great stuff, workshops. And members also automatically get Writer's Hour and also subscription to the magazine, but kind of a little something for everyone depending on what they're looking for.
Perfect. And
Did
just
I miss
really,
anything,
really
Lindsay? Oh,
briefly,
sorry.
was the write-ups element of it, so the in-person write-ups, are they worldwide? Are they just in the US? Where have we got those going on?
Yeah, we were doing them or Paro was running them in London for almost 2 years, once a
Okay.
month. We've stopped those, paused those. I do think it's not an immediate part of our strategy, but I think in the next year, I would love for part of our strategy would be to a rollout of global local writers hours around the world, where we have almost like Creative Mornings has around the world. Um, Maybe it's weekly, maybe it's monthly, where you can go and write in person with other people at
Mhm.
a writers hour near you. So that's a goal. But right now we have one a couple times a month. Serpa is holding them in Cornwall, so we've got that going on. And other than that, it's just kind of ad hoc and kind of in uh what's the word? Informal writers hours happening
Yeah.
around the world. Yeah, but
Yeah,
nothing
beautiful.
official.
No, that's lovely. And I think there's always that opportunity for us to get out of our comfort zone. So I'm traveling to London tomorrow. I've got two events. I won't know myself. Like, honestly, I'm such an introvert. I work from my little cottage, like my husband's around every day. My kids come home from school. Like, that is my routine. So one thing I always say is like, keep an eye on where your inspiration comes from, because I know if I push myself out of my comfort zone and go to meetups and chat with people and align with people that are on a similar path to me. Like there's so much insight in all of that. And also it kind of reignites everything as well. So definitely have a look for those and see what's going on with those next year. If you are feeling a little bit like you've got a bit stagnant or stuck, they can really bring fresh new energy when you go to meetups and stuff. Well, thank you both so, so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you for your honesty, especially, and all of the beautiful ways you articulate things. You know, I feel like I want to listen back and just lean in and journal on some of the things that you both said. It was so, so beautiful to connect with you at this time of year and hear more about how you're managing the Substack and the Writers Hour membership as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you so
Claire.
much, Claire.
Yeah, this is great. And obviously always happy to help and continue the conversation. And I do, Lindsay alluded to it, and we don't have anything to share yet, but I wish we did because I think we're cooking something up actually that I it's our solution to this whole conversation, which is how do we bridge the me and the we in a way of like the
Mm.
thing that creative we want with what we think can serve people. So we have something. I think it will live on Substack,
Hmm.
but unfortunately, it's we're not quite there to launch it. But we will share with you first because we think hopefully it will be a lot of fun. So
Oh, that
yeah,
sounds
look forward
really
to that.
great. Yeah, gorgeous. Perfect. Well, you guys can find out more at the website or at the Substack and connect with Lindsay or Matt. You can drop them an email, connect with them that way too. Thank you both again so, so much, and I'll chat to you again really soon. Take care.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Claire.
Claire.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.